I still remember the faint click of that lock. It echoed louder than thunder in my chest. It was a bright, ordinary afternoon, the kind that smells like rain-soaked pavement and distant laughter. I had just stepped inside Aunt Marissa's house, my mom's longtime friend, the woman who'd always treated me like her own nephew, when I heard the door close softly behind me. Then came the sound of the lock turning. When I turned around, she was standing there with a strange half-smile, her eyes unreadable. "Perfect timing, as always," she said quietly. For a split second, I froze. Something about her tone, calm but heavy, sent a shiver through me. The sunlight from the open curtains framed her face, and in that moment, it wasn't fear I felt, it was something else. A premonition. Like life was about to hand me one of those moments you never see coming, one that rewrites everything you thought you knew about people. My name is Evan Miller, I'm 23, and at that time, my life felt like a chain of disappointments. I just lost my job at a small car repair shop after the owner found out I'd been late too many times, something I couldn't even blame him for. My mom had been sick for months, barely able to move around after her surgery, and I was doing my best to juggle everything. But the truth was, I was failing. Mom's friend, Marissa, had been helping us for months, dropping off food, paying a few bills quietly when she thought we didn't notice. She was in her early 40s, a school counselor, warm-hearted and endlessly patient. My mom always said, if I ever had a sister, it'd be Marissa. I believed it. That's why when she called me that morning saying she needed help moving some boxes in her house before a work event, I didn't hesitate. I thought it'd be a chance to repay a small part of her kindness, but the moment I stepped inside her living room, I realized something was off. The boxes she mentioned weren't there. The curtains were open, sunlight pooling across the hardwood floor, but the house was quiet, too quiet. I turned back and saw her just standing by the door, locking it. When she smiled and said, "Perfect timing, as always," I asked half-jokingly what she meant. That's when she took a slow step forward and said, "Evan, sit down. I need to tell you something I should have said a long time ago." I sat. My palms were sweating, my heart racing, but her tone wasn't threatening. It was heavy, like the kind of truth that takes courage to say. She walked to the window and looked outside before speaking again. "Your mom asked me to talk to you today," she said, turning toward me. "She doesn't want you to know she asked, but she's been worried. She says you've been shutting down, angry, distant, giving up." I blinked, caught off guard. I had no idea what to say. Marissa went on. "Evan, I know you're tired. I know life's been unfair lately. But you can't keep living like you're already defeated. Your mom told me she's scared, not of dying, but of leaving you behind with no reason to keep going." Her words hit me like a wave. Suddenly, the locked door didn't feel like a trap. It felt like protection, like she wanted to make sure I didn't run away from what needed to be said. She pulled out a small envelope from her pocket and set it on the table. "Your mom wrote you this 2 nights ago," she said softly. "She wanted to give it to you herself, but she couldn't get out of bed yesterday." My throat tightened. My hands trembled as I reached for it. I knew Mom had been struggling, but hearing that she'd written me something in secret, it broke something inside me. I opened the envelope and unfolded the letter. Her handwriting was messy, shaky from medication, but it was still hers. "My dear Evan, if you're reading this, it means I asked Marissa to do what I couldn't. I'm not afraid anymore, sweetheart, but I need you to promise me something. Promise you'll live. Not just exist, live. Don't let my illness, or your mistakes, or this cruel season of life make you bitter. Find joy again. Find your purpose again. And don't ever forget you are loved, more than you can imagine." By the time I finished reading, I couldn't see the words anymore. Tears blurred everything. Marissa sat across from me, silent, letting me cry without interruption. After a long moment, she said, "Your mom's stronger than she looks, Evan. But she needs you to be strong now too. She told me she's afraid you've stopped believing in yourself." I wiped my face and tried to speak, but my voice cracked. She's everything I have left." "I know," she said. "That's why she's fighting so hard. But she wants you to stop living like her sickness is the end of your world. It's not. It's the beginning of your chance to become who she always believed you could be." There was something about the way Marissa said those words, steady, compassionate, that made me finally let go of the anger I'd been carrying. The anger at life, at God, at everything I couldn't control. She stood up and opened the door again, the lock clicking softly. The sunlight outside felt different now, brighter, warmer. "Come on," she said, smiling gently. "Your mom's waiting for you. She wanted me to stall you for a bit so she could rest. But I think she'd like to see you now." That day changed me. I went home, sat beside Mom, and just held her hand. I didn't say much, and she didn't either. But in that quiet, something healed between us. Over the next few months. Things didn't magically get easier, but I started trying again. I found another job, part-time at first, then full-time at a small community center repairing bikes for kids. It wasn't glamorous, but it felt meaningful. Mom's health stabilized for a while, and Marissa kept checking in, always making sure I didn't drift back into that dark place. It was about 8 months later when the second turning point came. Mom's condition took a sudden turn, and the doctors told us the truth we'd both been avoiding. She didn't have much time left. I remember sitting beside her hospital bed one afternoon, her hand frail and warm in mine. She looked up at me with a weak smile and said, "You're stronger now, aren't you?" I nodded, tears stinging my eyes. "Because of you." "No," she whispered. "Because of you." When she passed away 2 days later, it felt like the air had left the world. But I didn't collapse this time. I didn't run. I stayed. I faced it. And when Marissa came to the funeral, she hugged me so tightly it felt like my mom was hugging me through her. After the funeral, I helped Marissa clean out some of Mom's old things. In one of the boxes, I found a small notebook titled Letters I Never Sent. Inside were little notes Mom had written over the years, memories, prayers, even silly things like her favorite recipes. On the last page, she'd written, "Marissa is family. She'll watch over you when I can't." I showed it to Marissa, and she smiled through her tears. "She always knew," she whispered. "She always knew how much you'd mean to me too." In the months that followed, Marissa became like a second mother to me. She guided me when I doubted myself, cheered me on when I found small victories, and reminded me constantly that kindness, real, human kindness, was the thread that holds life together. Years passed. I eventually opened my own repair shop, small but successful, and started mentoring young people who'd been struggling like I once had. Sometimes, I'd tell them parts of my story, not everything, just enough to remind them that even the darkest seasons can lead to unexpected light, and every time someone asked how I turned my life around, I'd smile and say, "Because one day, my mom's friend locked the door and refused to let me run away from hope." There's something I learned from that day, something I think about every time I meet someone who's hurting. Sometimes, life's hardest moments don't arrive to break us. They arrive to save us. They come disguised as locked doors, strange conversations, or even painful goodbyes, but behind them lies the chance to rebuild, to start again with a softer heart and stronger soul. Marissa still visits my shop sometimes, always bringing that same warm smile. And every time she does, I'm reminded of my mom's words, "Promise you'll live." I'm still keeping that promise.